deals between Oracle, OpenAI, and NVIDIA, where basically the circle of money is happening, where OpenAI buys cloud computing from Oracle. Why they buy cloud computing from Oracle? Because Oracle has an exclusive deal with NVIDIA, from whom they buy GPUs for their cloud. And who's giving money to OpenAI, who barely has any revenue, any prospect to deliver the return on investment? It's NVIDIA. And why they give this money to OpenAI? Completely unclear. Basically, they're just investing 100 billion to OpenAI. OpenAI buys cloud computing from Oracle. Oracle buys GPUs from NVIDIA.
So the circle of money. Hi everyone, welcome to the latest Impact of AI Explored. This episode we have a new guest, Maria Sukareva. Maria, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, James. Thank you for having me here.
Excellent. So, Maria, we decided on this episode that we were going to talk about AI hype and is AI a bubble? Just for anyone who doesn't quite know what that is, how would you describe an AI bubble or a bubble in tech in general?
Well, so currently what we are experiencing is a very interesting situation, right? So when ChatGPT appeared, it got very accessible to many people, and it played the so-called fluency trick on many people. So it was very fluent and sounded like a human, and people started believing that it has some kind of actual intelligence, and that it can basically do some kind of substitution of humans, right? And many people who maybe had not such a good understanding, or maybe simply had bad intentions, they decided to capitalize on it. And they started selling ideas, promises that are not achievable with this technology for a lot of money. And eventually, where we ended up, that a lot of money got invested into those promises that we are very unlikely to achieve in the next year. So currently, we are approaching the point where investments will in, and the companies will start asking, so where is return on investment? And when we finally realize that there is no return on investment, then this bubble might pop. And it seems to be like there are really surreal things happening. So, for example, you probably have heard about the latest deals between Oracle, OpenAI, and NVIDIA, where basically the circle of money is happening, where OpenAI buys cloud computing from Oracle. Why they buy cloud computing from Oracle? Because Oracle has an exclusive deal with NVIDIA, from whom they buy GPUs for their cloud. And who's giving money to OpenAI, who barely has any revenue, any prospect to deliver the return on investment? It's NVIDIA. And why they give this money to OpenAI? Completely unclear. Basically, they're just investing 100 billion to OpenAI. OpenAI buys cloud computing from Oracle. Oracle buys GPUs from NVIDIA.
So the circle of money,
billions, the circle of money. And is this sustainable? I'm not a financial expert, so maybe someone can chime in and say that's great economy that's going to be working out very well. Though, for example, Deutsche Bank recently published, I don't know what was this, a review, or basically it was in the news, that they think that the US economy is basically now based on this AI bubble, on this circulation of these billions of dollars in the AI sector. And at some point, it all might go plop. And what I think also might help it to go plop is China, because Chinese research is actually doing very well. They are building their models. They're doing a lot of open source models. The most used models on Hugging Face, the most trending ones are coming from China. They also care about the optimal computing. Huawei is building alternative to NVIDIA, essentially destroying the mode. So what can happen eventually that while the Western world circling billions around, European Union doesn't circling anything. It's just producing some kind of regulations to regulate something they basically do not even have. China is doing its own thing, optimized computing, produce a state of the art, and get completely independent from the Western technology.
Okay. You mentioned there about Europe not doing anything, but I do know we do have Mistral, which is got some serious investment recently. So, you know, I agree. The bigger investment is obviously in the US and China, but I think there is starting to be a lot done within the EU.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have Mistral, and I sometimes got some complaints about me making fun of Mistral, because honestly, Mistral, if you look at any leaderboard, where is Mistral there? Well, you need to scroll far, far away to find it.
Right.
So who uses Mistral? And the only selling point of Mistral is that it complies with the EU regulations. So it's not the quality, it's not the speed, it's literally nothing else except that it solved the problem, like European companies solved the problem that European Union put on this problem. So, I mean, well, fantastic. They got money, like fantastic. They also exploiting some new interesting algorithm there. For example, their coding model is architecturally very interesting. But I mean, can you do? Who in their right mind thinks that Mistral is actual competition to OpenAI? I mean, and now that OpenAI, they got some kind of computing instances in Germany or something like this came into the news lately. So, I mean, if you have a possibility to buy from OpenAI for a company or from Mistral for the same price, for the same conditions, for the same compliance, like who would you pick here?
Yeah, very true. You would pick it OpenAI.
Yeah,
that's what I also think.
Yeah. So just looking again, kind of at the at this whole AI hype thing, do you think we're in a bubble yet, or are we just kind of in the hype cycle at the moment? Because I'm kind of in the opinion that I don't think we're quite at bubble stage yet. Now, you know, if we talked about that whole circle of money and that, and you know, we've seen all the hype around AI agents that are not AI agents for the last year or so. If you look at LinkedIn feeds, all you could see was AI agents when in fact none of them were. It's just automations.
I mean, it depends. What's the difference between like being at the top of the hype cycle and the bubble? For me, it's probably how much you invested into this, and if we are about the point where the return on investment will not be coming, and if we will have a big wave of defunding and a big wave of bankruptcies. And I mean, I don't see why this shouldn't happen in the nearest future, because I really feel like there are so many companies, like small companies, that's trying to sell some kind of ChatGPT wrappers. Also, this type of small startups like Cursor, for example, and that's OpenAI's Windsurf and so on, that kind of also build the wrappers around the big models, and then hyperscalers basically just crushing them, commoditize this technology. So then again, if we see at the corporate world, from my connections, from people what I see at the conferences and so on, I have a feeling every department in every corporation try to build a chatbot, is now trying to build agents, is hiring some kind of externals, like dumping my money into Microsoft, to Amazon, whatever their cloud provider, the preference. But I really, also like Microsoft Copilot and all this stuff. But do we actually see a return on investment in the corporations from all those? That's what I would be interested to hear if any company can say, well, we invested that many millions now. We have the productivity gains. We can cut on the workforce. For example, we had absurd predictions on the impact on the labor market of AI. Even like 2 years ago, I was making fun of this, and still, it keeps on coming. And I mean, at some point, investors and all those big non-tech corporations, they should ask, so where's the money? Like, what did they invest into? Into like a buggy software that helps me to write emails better, or what's there? And I don't think there will be a good answer for this, because yeah, those models, they're wonderful. They can write your emails quickly, then can do translation, they can chat with you, they can generate funny pictures, but they, as soon as you go into a specific domain, or as soon as you try to integrate them into the processes and workflows, they are not really creating that much impact.
Yeah, what we see at companies, we do a lot of small proof of values, and you can see impact in that, but those are very limited, narrow placed. We as in the Netherlands, we don't see companies that are AIing their complete primary operation model or whatever, because it's just things on the side that they're making smarter, and that helps them be more efficient. But it's all small wins. But what you said is there is no, and I hear a lot of influencers are saying, I got 10 bots, they're doing all my job. I'm running a 600,000 a month company on my own, only using AI. I'd like to look in the kitchen to see if they can really pull that off.
Yeah.
Because it's the overhype, under-deliver problem, I think, that we're facing now. So I can feel what you're saying is we're injecting money and getting the money out. So we're just making circle with money, and that helps to see the money flowing in AI grow. But what are we in the end giving our users? What helps them every day?
Yeah, and I think that's also like with this money flow, a lot of what's happening there, and a lot of these investments, like that, we put more money, we build more centers, we do, and then we have this model that finally works the way we want. So, well, the next one, we were waiting for our God and Savior GPT-5 for 2-3 years. It arrived, it flopped. Now I don't know what they're waiting for. Now there's like world models and something like that. So, but I mean, the idea is like, but now AI is just too young for some reason. I don't know, like the area is like 70 years old, but it's still like, it's still too early. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we are just starting, because as if it appeared 2 years ago. And well, now we build like those data centers, and then something happens, and that's when all this return on investment will happen. But again, if we are looking from the technical point of view, what they're doing, the scaling part, it's already been discussed many times. So large language models, they're basically trained on a dump from internet and from like now public corpora, whatever, like scan books. But there's not essentially much more data, like textual data, to put into them. So simply making the model bigger and training on the same data will not necessarily make a big leap. It might make, I mean, those who work in machine learning, they know that you make a bigger model, it might get better, it might start converging faster, it might also start overfitting at some point, but it will not be a massive leap if you just like start making models bigger ones. At some point, it's going to get flat. Another idea is, okay, now we might start generating syntactic data sets in mass when we have those data centers. So we can generate a lot of syntactic data, but syntactic data, again, are nothing more than basically a reflection of what was already there in the data, just like recombined. And those syntactic data, they have a problem. They usually do not have long tails. So they are covering frequent cases, but for example, recently I posted about a guy who fell on scissors. The scissors stabbed him through the eye socket or something like this. They had the scan of him. They removed the scissors. He survived. They even kept his vision somehow. So there was a scan of him. I put this in ChatGPT, asked what's happening, and of course, like ChatGPT was confused, said it's craniotomy, whatever it's called, like that is a surgical procedure that's happening there. It's actually just like scissors in his head. But anyway, this is an example of long tail where you have like this small cases that do not happen frequently, but there's like lots of them. And this is what these models usually do not cover very well. And this is what synthetic data sets will not cover very well. And that's probably where we could have potential for the improvement. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure like just building the data set, just making models bigger is doing anything necessarily for improving the quality of these models. It seems more like it's doing more for the budget of OpenAI than for the quality of the model.
Just showing more muscles. Look, we've got 140 billion parameters now instead of 70 billion, but the quality of the answer does not improve.
Yeah, and they also make money on this. I mean, why are they selling scaling? They are researchers. They should understand the limits. But scaling is their way to getting funding for all those data centers, because if they build these 5 massive data centers in the US for that many billions, so give us money for this, and we are going to train finally something that doesn't hallucinate, finally something that is applicable for domain-specific use cases. Finally, you'll have a Microsoft Copilot that's actually usable. So
that's your thing, James. You also have a bit of a hate-love relationship with Copilot.
I just haven't spent enough time with it. It's because I just, like, my first exposure to LLMs was ChatGPT, and I'm kind of setting my ways and I've got a procedure I use with that, and I've done a bit with Claude as well, but I just haven't spent enough time because I don't want to start again. ChatGPT's built up it's got memory and everything, so I don't have to tell it half the things. It just goes off and does it. So to have to start again, but no, look, I think the thing with Copilot is it's going to be more trusted because Microsoft's already embedded in nearly every organization. So that's given it a head start. Then obviously, like, you know, they're introducing more models that you can access through Copilot, as in, you know, they've just brought the Anthropic models in last week. Yeah, it was last week. So you now have the option of those, but is it going to get to the state? So yeah, it's interesting to see with Copilot, but yeah, as I said, for me personally, I just need to, as I said to Femke on the last episode, I just need to play around with it a bit more and see if I can get more value out of it.
Yeah, but there are no big... Sorry, you go first. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that the problem here with Microsoft and Copilot and just adding the models, and why it still probably work worse than OpenAI. So, I mean, for example, Copilot Studio has now over 100 different connections to different data sources. So you can plug in, do this content engineering and so on. But the problem is these systems, they are not just models. They are actually software. The model is just one part of it. And model is trained on knowing how to handle the tools, how to handle the context and so on. So within OpenAI, ecosystem, the model is adapted for handling, for example, for calling web search where it's needed. That's why, for example, you shouldn't probably build your own rag bot where you call, I don't know, a Bing web search API if you still have access to this. Rather use something that's already embedded in the model, because then you build some kind of a Frankenstein that kind of artificially tries to orchestrate a number of tools and constantly makes mistakes, doesn't know how to handle this context, versus that model that already trained on this. And I think OpenAI in general will always work better for such things in their own, like OpenAI enterprise with their own models, exactly because they train this as a system to work as an ensemble. And doing something like model agnostic, where you can like switch between I don't know, Claude and GPT-5 and so on and so on and so on. I feel like long term it will essentially make no sense, because all these things should be trained and built together. Otherwise, they just do not function very well. So I think Microsoft needs to either find a partnership with someone. I mean, OpenAI, they had a breakup with them. Now Oracle is OpenAI's best friend before Microsoft was funding their cloud stuff. And also Microsoft was providing them web search. Web search is basically essential for LLMs. That's the only way for LLMs to have their up-to-date. Now OpenAI built its own index. And I mean, they broke up, so they either need to build their own model or make friends with Anthropic, but Anthropic is friends with Amazon, right? So
Yeah, so
yeah,
they find
exactly. Anthropic is definitely backed by Amazon, so yeah, it's an interesting world with these kind of these companies and all the internal politics and all that kind of thing. So we've talked kind of about some of the aspects around hype around AI, but do you see anything in AI at the moment that's delivering true value, as opposed to, just hype?
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty positive about AI assisted coding. I think this is really where we can see the value, and I absolutely do not see how anyone can deny this, because AI assisted coding is here to stay. It's incredibly useful. It's basically killing Stack Overflow. So, for example, I don't know, like, when was last time I had to search for Stack Overflow before? It was like my most used website. And it's very useful for quick prototyping. It's all this like
Oh yeah, no,
scanning
I'm
the
aware of the
errors. It's like
prototyping.
fantastic.
I built. We did a presentation last year. I built an app, a network monitoring app, in 3 minutes before I boarded my flight.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just works.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It was able to give me all the stats, network stats off my machine in yeah, it was just incredible how, yeah. So yeah, we talked about this, like, what would have taken weeks to prototype, you can do in minutes, essentially.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's not really, I mean, I also do not see how this can really replace a developer, because I did notice, even when I do these experiments for my Substack, and I do evaluation of LLMs, and I code this Copilot, and for example, just yesterday I published the psychophantic evaluation, and then it published something, and I see that, and it's like super confident, but I see there's something like off with the metrics. And you have to look through. I mean, I figure out that it completely messed up the statistical significance and the metrics, how it calculated this. But of course, like, if you've never done it by hand before, you probably wouldn't notice. Or if you just rely on this and you say, like, calculate for me like statistical significance, p-value, and then it calculates, and you see like that doesn't make sense, like, from what you see in the data. And there, if you don't have the experience, you wouldn't be able to find this. So when companies say, oh, now like 90% of our code is written by AI. Well, first of all, I doubt it's 90%, but the second thing I want to say that it's not 90% of your code is written by AI. It's 100% of your code is written by humans with the assistance of AI. because I doubt there's any app, anything out there that was just started and ended that went into production without any human supervision. I mean, prototyping maybe yes, maybe you can put one prompt, prototype comes out, but anything actually usable, complex, you have to have an oversight for this.
For security wise,
yeah.
just to start with one, being sure that the code is safe, code is secure. That there are not any issues, because there's a lot of people, I follow some Facebook groups and some LinkedIn groups where people are doing vibe coding, and it all starts with, look what I built in 2 minutes, and then they want to change something and then it breaks and they can't fix it. And then they don't know what to do, because you still need to be skilled to solve the issue.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, actually, I've had an experience like that. At some point, I decided that I want to build Apple iOS apps for fun. I never saw Swift before. So the thing coded me some kind of a game, all worked well. Then it coded, then I wanted to add more features, and eventually it snowballed in some kind of horrendous code. I couldn't figure out what's happening. So I had to delete it. I had to go to YouTube and watch a tutorial with some guy, follow what he's doing. And only then I could actually produce something usable. But I when I just I could do this, do that without any understanding, it just snowballed in a nightmare of errors.
Yeah. So if the first prompt gives you an okay result, then it's okay, but it's not validated, it's not quality assured, etc. And what will it do under stress? But if you want to really build something, you have to be skillful and know what the code is doing and what the code should be doing.
Yeah, but currently you also need to learn these tools, because you will be building much faster. If for some, I know some older developers who are still in denial that those tools are useful, and I think that's not a very smart approach, because those people, the senior developers who adapt these tools, they will be much more efficient in doing this. Even, I don't know, writing some bash comments and I don't know, copying files. It's all just faster.
Yeah. But the thing that we discussed in an earlier podcast, I think, James, is this AI assisted coding is cool, but you still need to learn. So the youngsters that are starting their platform engineering or software development life still need to learn how to code, to understand what the AI is making.
Yeah.
And that's something that if you look at
I was going to say, a friend of ours, he uses it for coding, but he's been coding for most of his life. So he said one of the things he said is the code that AI generally creates is fairly inefficient and won't scale to a production setting. So you can use it for prototyping and all that kind of thing, and maybe doing code reviews and stuff like that. But when you're actually talking production systems, as you said, it's AI assisted coding. It's not AI coding, because that's the thing. It goes back to this whole human in the loop concept, that it's very necessary, especially when it comes to coding, because the potential for it to go wrong is you can't just have people going in and building apps that are going to then be productionized without going through a process of testing, assessment, all of that kind of stuff. So, or if you do, you're going to have some bad consequences to deal with.
Yeah, and that's also fine if that's your cup of tea.
Well,
if you like a little bit of mayhem.
If you want to do that kind of mayhem that allows any hacker of the planet to get access to your application and all your customers' data, then yeah, sure. But not for me.
Yeah, just don't call us, because we don't know what to do.
Yeah, we don't want to know. But yeah, I think the main thing with vibe coding is that it's accelerated that whole process. You shouldn't have to wait to do prototyping for months just to build something. As I said, I built something while waiting for a plane to board. It was 3 minutes, and it was pretty good. If I'd spent another 10 minutes, it would have been excellent. So the barrier to adoption is getting smaller and smaller. But I think also on the flip side of that is it's very much necessary that you have a skill set with these things. All of these tools are great. And look, I can probably, use some of the AI models and produce some like an image or a video. But like we had a guest previously, he's worked in the film industry for the last 25 years. What he can produce is far better than what I can produce. So it comes back to that whole thing about, you're amplifying your own expertise. I'm not a coder, so,
No.
there's nothing to amplify because I can't code. Uh, and I'm not afraid to admit that I've never been a coder. So, but yeah, so I think it's all about enhancement and amplification of your actual skill set. So, but yeah, I suppose vibe coding is, I think it's a good thing. It's definitely sped things up in terms of adoption. Yeah, that's my view on vibe coding.
Yeah.
So one of the other areas I want to look at is we've talked about how vibe coding is kind of. Is there any other areas where you think real value is coming from at the moment, Maria, or is it in
Mm,
terms of
I
AI?
mean, well, that's a great question. I mean, if we look into large language models, I mean, we will talk about LLMs, right? We are not talking about like time series here or like all the models. I mean, so they're doing things that connected with language. So primarily, for example, they're quite good for translation. I mean, translation on high resource languages, so primarily like English, German. I really don't think it would be like fantastic on, I don't know, Urdu, Bulgarian or something. But it's definitely a big jump for translation of high resource languages. Then it's great with, I mean, spelling correction, I guess,
Mm.
and writing text. Where would it be? The problem with all this, it has a very high adoption. Like almost everyone chats with this ChatGPT, uses it to write emails, uses it to do some kind of other things. However, high adoption, as we see, doesn't directly translate into their profits. So if everyone in the company writes emails faster or longer or more, it doesn't necessarily mean that the company will increase
Make
its
more money. No.
profit. Exactly.
No,
It doesn't mean
yeah,
very. So it's very hard for me like to say what that's where it's really bringing value, except for the coding. We now have this agentic hype, and agentic hype is somewhat funny because, as you said in the beginning of this podcast, they're trying to plug some kind of bots here and there and like optimize something for efficiency. They find some kind of inefficient process and like, let's build a chatbot for people here, so maybe it will like be a bit of, they will be a bit efficient. And I feel like many people, they do not see that the automation, it has a certain paradigm. So the paradigm of automation is here shifting from where you have a human as an actor, and AI is supplementary, right, as a tool there. And at some point, you should have human as an observer. That's the absolute automation, and the AI as an actor, and everything is in between. But for this, you also need to have a process that is fit for AI as an actor, because if you have a process that is fit for a human as an actor, and then you start plugging AI here and there, then it doesn't necessarily help much. So a simple example, let's say we have some kind of, let's say, I don't know, like financial controller. And he has been working for 30 years, and he has his documents, I don't know, like on SharePoint, on his local machine. He knows that he needs to send an email to Martin every Monday to get some document from there. He knows that he needs to talk to this person. So that's a very human-centric approach, and it worked for him for 30 years. And then he has a lot of common sense. He doesn't need to look up regulations to make certain conclusions and so on. And then someone comes over and says, let's replace this financial controller with an agentic system. And they started thinking how they can do this. And then they started thinking, like, maybe you can build a chatbot that looks up regulations for him. But he already knows these regulations by heart. He doesn't need this. Or maybe we help him to drag files from from SharePoint. Or maybe he will be sending the emails. But it's still, our human-centered approach. Instead, one needs to think, how can you put him as an observer and make sure that AI builds that does all the actions. And here you have different rules. You need to be able to formalize this process in rules and clear instructions, like, for example, in if then, or for example, if you do this, do that, like to build the task flow and so on. So you basically need to review the full process, because when you start plugging random chatbots, you most likely will not integrate very well into his workflow. And eventually, our financial controller will just say, I don't want to use it. I remember regulations by heart. I'm fine chatting with Martin over email every Monday. I don't need this. And I have everything in my head. And that's why a lot of those agents and a lot of POCs, they get abandoned, because they do not fit into the process, because process is not fit for them.
Yeah, it doesn't scratch the need of the one who is being relieved of a task because he likes to do the task, and or the task is not fit. As what you said, is not fit for the AI. And that's something that we need to look at when we're automating stuff or helping people work smarter. What part of your job you don't like to do, and if you can automate that bit, then you can make their life a little more happy, and that's good.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
well,
and that's the thing you see.
Coding is a good example for this. Coding is a good example where you put the coder as an observer and the AI as the actor. So I really like how Copilot agent is there, because it actually does things. It's like provisions the files for you. It can execute commands. It can write the code. It can execute the code, and you need to watch after this. And of course, that's not the 100% automation. You're like somewhere in between there. But here, the process is already fit for this pipeline in a way. And the other processes, I haven't seen yet anything like this, because IDE, how it's built, is fit for this. But corporate processes or company processes, they're not like IDE. They're like a connection of many systems, many people that need to communicate with each other and so on. So it's not that trivial to substitute those people with agents, especially not the smartest one.
No, let's not do that.
So Maria, is there anything in AI that really excites you at the moment?
I mean, I think where I see actually a lot of potential, where we haven't really reached very good results, is probably the industrial foundation models and the application of AI and these large deep learning models, whatever they might be transformers, might be SSMs, might even be some kind of XLSTMs too. Highly specialized domain-specific areas. So basically, that's where all those promised trillion gazillion euros savings should come from, and the next industrial revolution and so on. So if this could actually, for example, go into production, into the plants, and that's where the savings are. Because if I was at some point at an excursion in Schaeffler. Schaeffler, it's a German company. They produce industrial equipment, and we went to a plant, and we were talking about all these chatbots and whatever that's happening. And then you go into this plant, you see all these machines, and that's where the money are made for this company. And you see like how far all our rag bots, ChatGPT writing emails is actually from there. And what's integrated from this technology in these machines, in these conveyors, and so on? Well, nothing. Zero. So no productivity gain, barely anything. So I think if we are going to change something, then that's where the change is going to be. And industrial foundation models and going in there with these deep learning approaches is much harder than building ChatGPT for a simple reason, right? Like ChatGPT strongly relies on human feedback, on human annotations. We know how they annotated it. They hired poorly paid workers in economically disadvantaged areas, and they had to annotate the corpora, show their preference, and then they train their model on this. And but we cannot do this with industrial data. I mean, engineers have better stuff to do than say which text they prefer more, and they have better stuff to do than align between different diagrams and 3D models and so on. So this is an extremely difficult task to solve. There's still some attempts at this. So I hope, with now current tendency, for example, the SSMs and this change in the algorithm to, for example, include, like we're going back again to this from transformers to recurrent neural networks, where you can integrate, for example, the prediction of how the next action will influence following actions and so on, and where you kind of try to build in a bigger context. Maybe something will come out of there. In general, we have still a lot to improve in the area of video generation, of image generation. So there's great potential. But even there, I mean, just generating a nice picture, I mean, maybe good for marketing, but the picture that we want to be able to generate and process the industrial diagrams, industrial documents. And if that ever happened, and if you could actually put this stuff in the workshop and automate this in the same way like conveyor automated this, or like now we have some robotics, that would be where AI would create these trillions of impact, and not through some obscure promises of OpenAI that it will, I don't know, create new research or something like this, but through this simple automation. Because now, what is probably one of the most useful things from AI in the plants, like for example, in I worked in BMW, what they use a lot, it's defect detection. It's convolutional neural networks that existed there forever. They use it there back then, they use it now, nothing changed there. And that's one of the most valuable things, because this stuff detects defects very well and saves a lot of money, and is everywhere adopted. But there's really very, very limited application of this new technology in this big impactful industrial areas.
Yeah. So if you had to make a prediction of where AI is going to be in, like, say, 3 years, what would you think has changed from now till 2028?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about before this podcast. Where we are heading, because I think and I was like, I'll say this now on a video, and then someone in 3 years find it.
We won't hold it against you. We tried it once.
We made predictions at an event last year. We're now going back in November to the same event, and we have a lot of humble pie to eat. So we're not going to hold it against you. That so just make what you can be, the most outlandish thing you want, if that's what you want. But just curious to see what you think. Given your kind of very pragmatic view of where we are in terms of AI.
Well, I think we are going to see a big defunding. So there is going to be not just plateau, there is going to be the massive defunding of AI projects. Because now, if a company has a troubled financial times, the logical place to save will be all the AI initiatives, because no return on investment, lots of money in there. And I would expect a lot of defunding, the skepticism of investors, and that a lot of AI will go back into the research labs. So the next, we do not have yet the algorithm or the clear idea what's going to be the next leap. It's not there yet. It's not on the table. And I think maybe the most controversial one, I do not think anything particularly spectacular will come out of the US and of the OpenAI initiatives or anything from that corner of the world. I think they will just be cycling money till scaling, but scaling in the sense that they probably put more money into serving more customers, because inference takes a lot of money. So all those data centers will be just like spreading ChatGPT all over the place and serving as many customers as possible, but not like algorithmically or like qualitatively improving the results. So I think there will not be a big leap, and I think the next big breakthrough will come from China, and then we will see if they're gonna share it with us, or if we will be in the position where like there will be like Mistral who produces like some kind of a DeepSeek version of whatever China they publishes proprietary variant, and will be catching up, trying to figure out what the Chinese did and how to reproduce this. So I'm not holding my breath really with what's coming now in the terms of innovation from the US, and also considering all their strange policies now regarding research and foreign workers and so on. So that's my prediction. In 3 years, nothing big will happen. Just more
incremental improvements.
Incremental improvements, and OpenAI will sell more enterprise platforms to corporations.
All right, Maria, thank you very much. This has been a really fascinating talk. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We will see you all on the next episode.
Yes, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.